I've been in Dubai for 30 years. What's the best way to approach this? Should I warble a bit and then let everybody ask questions? Is that probably the best way to do it? I'll give you a quick introduction to who I am and what I've done. So, when I was in the UK, I grew up wanting to get more out of life. And so the challenge is for anybody who's left their home country to come to a different place is sometimes you don't get the breaks that you want, and that's why you say, right, I've had enough, I'm going to go. So I always wanted to work in radio, so I ended up working for the BBC as a news reporter and presenter, and I didn't get the break I wanted, and so I ended up going on a TV show called Blind Date and winning the Christmas show. And for anybody who's from the UK, you'll go, oh, we remember that show. It was the number one, exactly, yeah, it was the number one reality show. I won the Christmas show, 20 million people watched it, and in those days, if you won a TV show like that, there's a very good chance of that converting into a TV show for yourself, because that's where a lot of people get hunted from. And so I wanted to get my break to go through to get something on TV in the UK. Didn't get the break I wanted. In those days, you had a VHS cassette that you had to send in the post. There was no internet or sending stuff by digital. And so it was literally like getting a brick, throwing it over the wall and hoping it hit somebody. So I got the recordings of a show, sent it off. I won the Christmas show, and so Christmas Day, it was one of the most watched shows. Fantastic. But I got shortlisted for a couple of TV shows. For those who know the UK, The Big Breakfast, Don't Forget Your Toothbrush, The Clothes Show, and MTV. All interested, but they all turned around and said, what else have you done? And I'm like, well, nothing else. This is my audition for you. Which is really hard to then turn around and give them anything else when they've already seen that. So I realised that living in the northeast of England was a challenge. I should have moved down to London to follow up, because by the time 3 months had gone, all the TV shows I wanted to be on had changed. They'd all gone off and new shows were starting, so I'd missed my window. And so if I'd lived in London, I could have walked in to see an agency or walked into the studios to talk to them. So I thought, well, maybe I should move down to London to start looking for work there and chasing up. So I went for a number of job interviews down there, and I just didn't want to live there. People were cold, the money was better, but I was so far away from the people I loved. In the end, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to get my sandwiches on a big stick and walk off and go off and see my fortune. And my girlfriend at the time said, you should go to Dubai. She had family out here, or friends out here. She said, go and have a look. And I said, I can't go to Dubai because, you know, you're going to get blown up and you can't drink, and I've heard all these other things about it. And they're like, no, go and have a look. So I got a DJ job working in a sports bar, came over here, made a big impression because at the time I was ready to be a TV presenter. So to come to Dubai in those days, if you could have the skills to work a live audience and you had radio skills and all the rest of it, you could do it very easily. So I introduced the all-you-can-eat and drink deal to Dubai 30 years ago with a thing called the 100 Club, 100 dirhams all-you-can-eat and drink. Can you even imagine how much damage that did to people's livers? But it was phenomenal. It was the first of its kind that happened. And now all the brunch events that happen around the world, around the region, are a spin-off of that one night where people saw the brunch concept and then started running with it. I was blessed to be around as they launched a radio station called 104.8 Channel 4 FM. They were recruiting people for that station, and because one of my best mates had got a job, he was the DJ that came over as well, he said, you should talk to Dave. They'd be really good for that. So I got a job working weekends as a presenter because I had my back experience in the UK. I didn't get the presenter job I wanted in the UK, but I could get it in Dubai. And at that time in Dubai, I mean, it's true now as well, they're throwing as much marketing as Dubai as they could do. So I was blessed in the fact that I got to work with some huge stars that were visiting, because there was another radio station at the time, 92, which I ended up working for a while, and they weren't commercial. Ours was. It was like from Capital FM in the UK. And so I got to work with James Brown, I got to work with Spice Girls, I got to work with Enrique Iglesias. Whenever a big star came on, I went on stage to introduce them and work the audience and all the rest of that. And I worked well with the DJs when they came over. And I did all that for about 10 years. And in those days, I was the #1 radio DJ in the country, because I was probably the only person who could do what I could do, which was great. But here's the thing that was really strange about it. After it got to a certain point, I realized that I'd proven to myself what I wanted to prove. I didn't need to continue doing it. When you're an influencer, and there was no such phrase as influencer, but in those days a radio influencer or a DJ or RJ, I realized that in order to stay at the top, you're going to have to defend people stabbing you in the back trying to get your position. And I only really wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. 10 years ago, I wasn't given the break I wanted in the UK, so I moved to Dubai, got my break, and when I got to a point where I thought, I don't know if these friends are real friends, or they're friends of my position, and I also don't need to keep doing this because I've already proven to myself, so I resigned. I left the radio station, and various people I'd worked with said, Dave, why are you doing this? It's ridiculous. You've got the top of the food chain, you're doing really well. And I said, because it's empty. I don't buy into it anymore. I just don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. And so with immediate effect, the next day, I never got invited to another opening of anything else ever after that. It was amazing how you can go from really, your name is currency and your following is currency, to zero currency overnight. And I never regretted making that choice. And I learned a thing later on called the Red Queen's hypothesis. Is anybody aware of what the Red Queen's hypothesis is? So from Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, the Red Queen, who's crazy, says you've got to keep moving to stay where you are. And what that means is if you're on a treadmill, you've got to keep running to not fall off it. And when you do decide to stop, the whole world moves forward. And then when you decide to get back on again, there's a different world to step into. So when I stopped being a famous person, and I still had lots of gigs going on, so my expertise was very much in live entertainment. So I got to run Dubai Rugby Sevens for 20 years. I was the host of it, I'm the entertainment director, and I went out and I must have performed every year in front of easily 100,000 people live, and then about 200 million will be watching at home. So all in all, we put that footprint together over 20 years, it's about 1 billion people I've reached. And so that, plus I trained Olympics teams, I did sporting events all around the world. When I dropped off radio, I decided to reinvent myself as a stage hypnotist. I still love being an entertainer, but I didn't want to spend all night there DJing because I got sick of playing music while people got drunk and I had to go and take my daughter to school the next morning. So being a stage hypnotist, if it was real, then I wanted to know how to do it. So I studied, I did it, I took on tours, and for about 10 years I was a stage hypnotist. It allowed me to get paid the same money, but only do an hour's worth of work, which was fantastic at that time. And so what I realized years later, I settled down, wife, kid, and having a wonderful life, hosting events, still being in demand for the speaking events, traveling around the world doing all that stuff. Social media didn't exist when I was on the radio. When I came off it, then it came a couple of years later. And I had a TV show called Turbocharge Your Brand TV about 16 years ago. Now, YouTube creators are pretty recent, 10 years maybe. So I was ahead of the game, but there was no game to be played, if that makes sense. So you end up shadowboxing your own career because you're doing stuff, and don't get me wrong, I was watching about 79 countries, I had a sponsorship, I could get access to any star that came into town because I would turn up with a camcorder and a tripod when nobody else is doing it, and I'd say to the speaker, can I interview you? Nobody else is around, so I get a chance to work with all those different people. But it was too far ahead of the game, so if you're doing it and you're getting limited feedback and nobody else has got an economy built around it or an industry built around it, I just went like that and I left it. The difference in radio is if we had had social media at that time, I would have left it without going cold turkey. I would have left it because I already would have built up a brand. I would have had my Insta, my Facebook, and all the rest of it, because that's a wonderful way to attract people. It's a full circle of having this platform. Whereas I had to kind of build it up from there. And because, as you probably realized, I'm a bit of an older fart than many of the people around the table, my own patience for doing that is very limited because I don't care about being famous anymore. I really don't. I do it because what I do next, which I'm about to share with you, needs to have some credibility of positioning to prove it can be done. So I carried on caring about, well, I still care about my family above everything else, but I was basically doing gigs around the world, speaking, doing hypnosis shows. I had a nice little balance of everything. Because I'd been here a long time, the phone would ring and I'd always get gigs. So I didn't have to market myself at all until the pandemic. And that came, it hit the wall with an instant stop. It's like falling over a cliff. My wife is an award-winning wedding photographer. I was hosting events and speaking at these events and teaching people to speak. And with immediate effect, there's no income for the next 2 years. And even if you had some money saved up, 3-4 months of it, you're okay. Doesn't happen to be 2 years of it. So I had to reinvent myself. And what I reinvented myself as is, there's a thing called the hedgehog concept. Is anybody here aware of the hedgehog concept? So it's from a book called Good to Great and Built to Last. There's another book by the same guy. He talks about the importance of having 3 different areas that you look at in your world. So imagine a Venn diagram that's got 3 circles. One there, it's Jim Collins, his name I was looking for. So one circle there, interlocking the circle here and the circle here. Now the idea is, a hedgehog is not the most dynamic of creatures, but nature's made it so good at being able to protect itself while doing what it does naturally. It's impossible for predators to get at it, because it just curls up in a ball, spikes on the outside, and foxes and badgers and cats or whatever can't go anywhere near it. So the key to life is to find out what you are naturally doing as a hedgehog, not be putting spikes on you, but I'll explain more about that. So what you do is 3 circles. First one is, what could you say you're the best in the world at doing? What do you do so well that nobody else does? So you can turn around and say, leave that with me, I'll take care of that bit. Really? No, just leave it with me. Next one is what you're passionate about, so you never feel that you're having to work, because you love doing it. You can do it 24/7, never get bored, you're always happy. And the third thing is, what will people pay for? And if you can get what you are brilliant at doing, what you love to do, and people will pay for, in the center is your hedgehog. That's what you need to find. Because if you've got your hedgehog, you never get bored, you're always excited to go to work, and also you get a living from doing what you love. So when the pandemic hit me, what my hedgehog was, what was I best in the world at doing? Really good at connecting with live audiences. And for anyone of color, you'll know that's actually how you survive when you're living in a country where necessarily people don't respect you for the colour of your skin. I'm not talking about Dubai. Dubai's great. Everyone can be, and we've got multicultural around here. But growing up in white areas of the UK was very challenging for me. Didn't know how much until I left and then came here. And I was like, wow, this is so easy. Nobody points fingers or any of that kind of stuff. Or it's not even that, it's micro-racism. That thing that they don't tell you why they've not hired you. And if you put your finger on it and say, is it that? It's sort of you being paranoid. But you know it is, because you've seen it so many times. And there's a little disconnect with people where you can tell why they're backing off a little bit. Now, I won't dwell on that, because I don't think it's particularly important for this conversation. But what ended up happening was, I realized that during the pandemic, I couldn't do gigs. No gigs, no audiences, no CEOs who needed to be taught to speak. So what else did I have? Well, best in the world at connecting with a live audience, because I get the Wi-Fi code of a room and an audience. I can still do that. What do I know really well? What am I passionate about? Helping people and making them better than they were before they started off. And what will people pay for? Well, I know how to be a celebrity. I was a celebrity before, I chose not to be. It's quite easy to be a celebrity, so why don't I teach people how to do that? But I didn't want to teach them to be good at saying, look at my dinner, I'm fantastic, look at this. I wanted them to be brilliant in their industry, because then their craft guarantees that they have a fan following, as opposed to just their looks or the connections and so on. So for instance, if we take something like Elon Musk, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk. For many reasons. I know everyone around this room, but I've got to be very careful. The last couple of clients I've talked to, I'll say what I think about Elon Musk, and we'll say, well, he's on my speed dial, I can call him for you, you can tell him. I'm like, no, we're okay. So Elon Musk is brilliant at what he does. You don't have to like him, you don't maybe want to meet him, but you would trust him to get us onto Mars and build a city there. You would trust him to take us to build a city on the moon, which is something he's talking about. All the rest of the stuff, you know he's Tony Stark, but he's driven by different ways of looking at the world. So I realized that what I could do is create industry icons. If you're good in your industry, and you're making money in your industry, but you're invisible, I can teach you how to be a celebrity. So that's what I've been working with. Now, since the pandemic, that worked out really well. I didn't leave my house. I created a home studio and became brilliant at doing stuff online. And when that started happening, all my clients were all around the world, which was fantastic. And when the pandemic was over, I stopped going to meetings in person. I could just do it online. I don't want to sit in traffic for 45 minutes to an hour to say, I'll sit in your office for 10 minutes and then you'll talk to me and then you'll let me know if I get the gig or not. Just jump online. I've got my own coffee. I don't need to even put trousers on. That's another secret. But that way we can have a chat, we'll work together or not work together. No time lost in that. And whilst I was starting to do that, I realised that one of the things that hit me, and it might be true for you as well, after the pandemic, I didn't realise that I had PTSD. So when people come back from fighting in Vietnam or fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan, the soldiers find that during that time, they bond really closely, but it's really hard to get back into normal life because they're used to a certain tension and a certain challenge and a certain way of looking at life. I had that after the pandemic. I didn't realize I had anxiety and depression because you don't notice it because you've got it all the time. Because at that time, I made 200 live shows during that 2-year period. And they were literally just going live, doing an hour, that's it. I did Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn all at the same time. And what I found was I was doing 16 hours online checking the clients. I was going out, if you don't get access to people, you're fishing all the time in DMs and to get the people. And so by the end of it, I didn't realize it, but I was burnt out. But not burnt out, there's a thing called burnt in. What burnt in is imagine getting your wheels stuck in the sand. So your car's still working, but it's not catching anything. So you're revving it and not moving. That's what happened to me. So I was working non-stop, but not getting any more traction than anything. My wife said to me, and it was profound, she said, take Saturdays off. I said, I can't do that. I've got to make sure we're okay. She said, we're okay. Just take Saturdays off. So I did. And then I could recharge my batteries and just Saturday, don't talk to my family. No, I take a Saturday for myself now, and it's amazing. So what's the end result of this? What matters is I realized that I wanted to have, because there was a disconnect between me and people, and for any of you who are working in a space where you're entertaining, there's two sides to you. There's a bit that goes on stage and you step up and you're running the room, and when you're not doing it, you tend to disappear. And that's really important as well, and your family know that you need to recharge your batteries because you're giving so much to people. But what happens is you become a really strong introvert. So I used to be a massive introvert, which was fine because when I'm on stage, I run everything. I'm the king of the castle, but I don't want to be the king of the castle amongst my friends because then it'd be too loud and unbearable. I don't want to be the king of the castle amongst strangers because why do I need to prove anything? If you want to ask a question, I'll do it, but otherwise, that's it. And I realized there wasn't a community that could help me get out of it. So I decided to build my own. So I thought, well, what can I do to get people to want to play? And I thought, well, I know branding, I know speaking, why don't we teach people how to turbocharge your career? So I went on my phone and I connected with people that I liked who were already connected. I said, would you like to join my WhatsApp group? So they did, and I created about 200-300 people, and I taught them how to brand and how to speak. I did that for about a year and a bit, and it worked really well. Some of them became clients, and some of them were just in there quietly watching everything that was going on. It's a gym upstairs. I keep checking on that as well.
Is it your name yet?
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Because otherwise you get off your phone and you'd know something was going on. Unless the guy has gone to sleep for a bit, which I don't. So I created that community, and then I realized that the next stage of that was to step it up. So I wrote a book called The Thought Leaders Playbook, which is available to buy on Amazon, and I created a community called The Thought Leaders Playbook. And I converted all those people that were in the Turbocharge Your Career group into my own community and started taking them on a new journey, because I realized that where things are going is to present yourself as a thought leader in your niche. I tend to have this issue of being too far ahead of the game. So you do stuff before anybody else gets it, and there's no market. That's really frustrating because then you see everyone else doing it, jumping into that spot, and they go, ha ha, and you go, yeah, but I got bored of that. But nobody cares and nobody knows. So I create the Thought Leaders Playbook, I create the Thought Leaders Living Room, because you can't convert an old WhatsApp group into a new WhatsApp group. Because the new software that they got means that when you've got a group, you can only have spin-off rooms from a newly set up group. So I created a new community, did a WhatsApp group, and all in all my Thought Leaders network is about 3,500 people. Some of them I coach directly, some of them are with my industry icon program, some of them are in a incubator, an accelerator called the Think Tank. And for instance, I'll give you an example. One of the guys in our think tank is a guy called Julian Treasure, who you may or may not know, the name might not ring a bell. So Julian Treasure did a really well-watched podcast all about listening. If you watch TED Talks, then you'd see it. So he did this broadcast that became the 6th most watched TED Talk of all time. He's a British guy. And he joined my community. And so about 2 weeks ago, we're sitting in having a think tank live session amongst all the gang. There's about 20 of us. And I said to him, Julian, you're ranked number 6 in the world for TED Talks. He said, yes. I said, how many have you done? And now there's TED Talks and TEDx.
Yeah.
So TED Talks is the big one where you got, Obama and Bill Gates in the audience. And TEDx is one that could happen in here, or in a church, or in a school. They're much smaller. He's done 5 TED Talks and 12 TEDx's. And I said, how many people have done that many? He said, I don't think anyone's done that many. I said, if you got all collective of your numbers together, how many people have watched yours compared to other people's? So he crunched the numbers and did an Excel sheet and he sent it to me, and he's the most watched of all the people who've ever done TED speaking. So now he's rounded. I said, you can call yourself the number 1 TED speaker on the planet. You're the greatest of all time. So imagine what I did for his brand, to go from a well-known TED speaker to the best that there's ever been. Because the one thing I learned through my entire career is having watched TV and understood celebrity, which allowed me to have a decent enough career when I wanted it, but I learned business models about how to position yourself as the best that you can be. And so I do that very easy and effortlessly with all my clients. My clients all around the world, I talk to them, I work out what their route to market is, who their market is, and what they need to do to create a relationship with them, whether it's a podcast and so on. So that's my story, that's where I am. I love what I do, and also I've pivoted from being a star to being a mentor. Really important, because now I can do this forever without having to be glamorous. I can always be that Yoda guy that comes on in a Zimmer at 80, 85 and still talks about what I do, because I'm not trying to be the legend or the star or the influencer or the big hitter anymore. I just do what I do. That's it. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
But I always believe, every legend needs a mentor. So the biggest legends in the world have always had somebody behind them. So I think just choosing that, I think all the legends out there who are successful today, if they didn't have their mentor, they wouldn't have been successful where they are. So I think while you've realized it and you've taken the journey, I think that's beautiful that you've gone on to that journey.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. I believe that it's like you need a helicopter view of your career, and you can be too close to it. It's like a fish looking for water. What's this water that everyone's talking about? You're in it. No, it's too obvious. It can't be that. And a brain surgeon can't do their own brain surgery. You do need to have another perspective of being able to do it properly. And it just allows you to fast track. When Tiger Woods stopped having a coach, his quality went down. Now, he was 1,000,000 times better than his coach at playing golf, but his coach wasn't there to play golf. His coach was there to get him to be a better golfer. And that's a massive difference. So the niche I'm in right now, I work in Davos, I work with the Vatican, I work with lots of big organizations around the world, and I love what I do, and that's really important to me. And I'm happy to answer any questions about your own stuff, if I can.
So I have a few questions that I've already prepared. So I'll do a few questions and then probably we'll let everybody
I'm all yours.
So since you've been a TV presenter, you've been a radio jockey, a DJ. Now, the confidence that you today talk with, how did that come to you? So how did this whole confidence come in there?
Really interesting, because I did a kind of TED Talk at the Gladiator Summit about 2 months ago. With a dear friend of mine called Darius Sudi, who runs it. And he said, I want you to do some speech. So I put together something. He said, no, not what you normally do. Do something different that really reaches people. So I got some slides. I said, right, that's what I want you to put. He said, I don't want any of those slides. You're allowed one slide. Now for me, I'm like, go F yourself, because I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So I've won awards as a speaker, I can do what I want, but I took the challenge on because it was uncomfortable and difficult. So I thought, okay, if you call yourself that good, why not do it? So I put together a speech, a presentation about 3 things that happened to me to position me to be the person I am, because I thought I'll take it from Steve Jobs. Have you seen the Steve Jobs one where he's live at not Harvard, there's another place where he's speaking.
Is it Princeton?
No, it's like Princeton. It's one of those top Yale type places.
Yeah.
And he talks about 3 different things that came together to make him who he is. So I put together 3 and made this speech, and it was really effective. And I didn't want to use PowerPoint, I didn't want to use cards, I wanted to have it in here, so I then memorized it or made it up as I went along to get to a point. And one of the things that hit me is something I'll share with you. It's a really, really powerful thing I'll give to you as a gift today. So, when I came out of the pandemic, I was broken. Not broken as in like staring at the wall and drooling, but it was really hard to get back into the industry. Remember, if you're in the events industry or any kind of client-facing industry, they treat you like a piece of poo and they play you off against other people. It's really challenging. And in the events industry, it's very simple. You want to hire me, you pay me in advance. Otherwise, it's not a gig. I don't book it. We're not going to have it until the money's in my account. I don't give people who are billion-dollar companies store credits, so I can't pay my bills. You pay me in advance, otherwise it's not there. And it works really well. But how do you do that when you know you're desperate for the gigs? After the pandemic, there were no gigs. And how do you do it when you know you've got to step up and act like that and just brave face them? I wasn't ready to do it at all. And did I mention I'm a stage hypnotist? Yeah, okay, so as a coach and as a hypnotist, I thought, well, how are you going to do this, Dave? The bottom line is to ask yourself better questions. So I started asking myself a better question. If the person I am isn't ready to give clients a proper conversation about doing business together, how am I going to be able to raise my game and feed my family now the events industry is coming back? I thought, well, is there a version of you that's really good? I thought, yeah, there is. When I've got a microphone in my hands, I'm unstoppable. I walk out and I do a rugby sevens or any sporting event, any event period. I run all these big conferences, leave for JISEC, I've done it for many, many years. And I go out in front of a live audience, I look after the sponsors, I look after the timetable, I look after the audience, the continuity, I do all these different calculations, and I don't drop the ball ever. I guarantee that everybody gets to the event, leaves going, wow. And I'm really good at doing that. But the version that was me at that time wasn't ready. And I realized that there's three versions to you. First version of you is the birth certificate you. So birth certificate you is you're born with birth certificate name, you go to school, and that's what they have in the register when they read your name out. David Maxwell Crane is what the teachers would say, and then my friends made it Dave Crane. Dave Crane is my social media name. So you've got the first one, which is a birth certificate name. Next one is your social media name. Social media guy, Dave Crane, wasn't ready to come back after the pandemic because he was still in, I mean, when you look back at who you are, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, there's challenges. What you shared with us today was amazing about the experiences that you've been through to get to who you are. And you embrace them and you find a way to put them all together. For me, I thought, there's another version of me, the one with the microphone. So that's a third version, a superhero version of yourself. Now when you guys are singing, you become different people. When you're doing your sports stuff, you become a different person.
Into the flow, it's your own state.
Exactly. So it's a flow state. So supposing you allowed your flow state to be coming out more often, and supposing you allowed your flow state to deal with your business. So I thought, okay, let's call this guy Max. Max is a man on a microphone. When I get clients not playing, I'm going to ask myself, Max, what should I do with this client? And I know it sounds crazy, but you can get what's happening here. So I'd say, right, okay, if Max was running it, what would he say to the client? And in my head it said, okay, give him 24 hours to come back to you on a proposal, otherwise the proposal's gone. I thought, you can't do that. What if we've got to pass it to the procurement department and we've got to sit in front of the board and everything? So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll make it 48 hours. Because I didn't want to kill Max either by saying I don't want to know his stupid ideas. So I made it 48 hours, and what I found was about 20-25% of my contracts converted straight away because they believed me and they said, okay, in that case he's going to do it, let's do it now. The rest of them either came back or didn't come back. It doesn't matter because I could then fill that gap with new ones. So my business grew quite a lot from making that decision. And so I thought, okay, this is really cool, this is Max. What else can I get Max to do? So everything I got Max to do, he did really well. Until the point I thought, why am I pretending to be Dave Crane? Why don't I just be Max? And this is Max. Now Dave Crane is at home with his family. Now, I'm not saying he's there now, I'm not stupid. But when I'm at home, I'm not Max. I'm not Max with my wife, not Max with my kid, not Max with my dog and my mum. I'm still Dave. It's really important for me to be vulnerable and not unstoppable, because then I could become a real shitbag. And I don't want it to happen at home. But in every other thing, it happens as Max. So what happened is when I got the gig at Davos, I went to a breakfast meeting. I was chatting to a couple of people, a couple of guys, African roots. I was saying to them, where are you from? I said, oh, we're based in Switzerland. What do you do? Well, we're bankers and we're going to do a gig at Davos in 2 weeks. I said, have you got an MC? They said, no. I said, great, that's going to be me. I'll give you my card, give me your card. We'll have a chat after this event. Great, fine. Max did that. I'd never done it. I'd have waited for somebody to say, Dave, 2 and 2 is 4. Can we get you? And how many opportunities do you waste waiting for somebody to work it out? Max now goes over and cherry picks, but he also doesn't waste time by stupid conversations. But he does make, I say he, sounds crazy to say that. I don't waste time.
It's your old ego though, right?
Here's the thing. If you look at Batman and Bruce Wayne, if you look at Superman and Clark Kent, which is the real one and which is the fake one? Interesting, isn't it? Is Spider-Man really Spider-Man, or is he really Peter Parker?
It's like boxers. I mean, when they get into the ring, they have to channel this different energy, right? They have to become like almost like a killer. But they obviously they're not going to take that kind of a mindset into their normal lives. I remember hearing Deontay Wilder speaking about this. He calls himself a bronze bomber because he's got that mindset of a killer. But then when he goes back, he's Deontay. But he's back, he's a normal guy. And it's the same kind of thing. It's what you do.
Exactly. So here's where this all comes together for this conversation to make sense. So I was doing this TED talk at this gladiator event. I started threading pieces together, and I talked about how throughout your entire life, and I wanted to share with the audience some things that might be useful for them, as opposed to things that were sort of like, a lot of people go on stage and they have this kind of exorcism of all their shit, and the audience has to take it, and that's not my intention. It never is my intention. So I've got this picture behind me of me, maybe about 5, 6, 7 years old as a kid. Big afro, big beaming smile, looking like Michael Jackson if he hadn't gone to such a dark place in his later years. So I start telling people this story about how I learned to jump and grow wings. That's my signature thing, jump and grow wings on the way down. And so one of the things I realized after telling this story was something I realized in the car park before I went out to speak. When I went to see a therapist, and I never go to see a therapist, but I went to see a therapist and said, why am I not rich? And she did a regression on me, hypnotherapy, and I found myself being about 2, 3 years old, playing in the street in Stockton, the northeast of England, and it was lunchtime. All my friends are 2, 3 years old, and one of the parents came out and said, lunchtime for everybody, came along, and when I went to go through the gate, she closed the gate to me and said, no, you go, to me. 2 years old, 3 years old, you don't know, you just go, oh, okay, must be a party or something, and you go home. What I didn't realize was that planted in me, you will never be allowed to a top table because people will stop you. So if you look at my CV and my career, I've always mastered what I did, but when it comes to the next level where you've got to be on the top table, I backed off and walked away. So here's the thing where it goes really interesting. So I told this story about how I'd always walked away. And then I suddenly realized that when I'm on stage, the guy on stage who's Max is the same guy that was behind me on the screen. I'd grown up with permission with a microphone, but only when there was a microphone. The other me had been out front of people and polite and fitting in, but the only time I had a license to step up and be magnificent at what I do was when I could be Max. So that's where the little boy went. He was supporting me all the way through my career. Does that make sense? Does that sound weird? So then I realized it's come full circle. I'd always had that, but without permission, without a microphone, he didn't step out. But he'd been the guardian angel all the way through, and now I am me. Now I'm the person I'm fully. And part of that allows me just to be chilled out. I don't have to prove jack shit, but I don't take shit at the same time. So that's a long answer to your question. I'm sorry about that.
I think all of us are silent around, but it does. I mean, we do get the internet and technical.
You know what, Dave? I'm probably half Asian, but there's so much of experience in life that's that you've given me personally has me. So I love these networks in hearing so many life experiences that you have never experienced, that you learn from other people's experiences. That's something which I will put into my life and see how things work out. I'm very young, 26 now. It's all married last week, living with three different businesses, looking into creating other people's business that they're around and looking how they can grow. I believe that's how you differentiate it between background and Bruce Wayne. Something that a lot of people don't see it. You have to place these two different characters when needed.
I don't think you do. I think at school, when you're told to shut up in the classroom because you're making too much noise and because you're meant to sit down and listen, they make you go really quiet, and so they create, and you put it on because you're a kid, they get you very early, imposter syndrome. And you wear it, and it stops you being the person that you truly need to be. I think that what you do is you embrace your higher level as often as you can until the point where it becomes natural for you to do it. And then you enjoy a better life with less BS. I don't expect people to like me. If they don't like me, then they miss out on me. That's tough shit. Good luck to you. And I don't expect to be there for everybody because there's only a certain amount of me that can be there. My family is ones who get me first. But I think that if you're caught between the two of them, take the bigger one. But don't be a shitbag while you're doing it. Always respect that first. You've got to leave people better off than you were when you first met them. So whether you're going to buy something in a supermarket or somebody puts petrol into your car, always say thank you. Always let them know they're doing a great job. You've got to lead them with either a tip or a saying or something. I mean, I used to tip everybody who put petrol in my car until I found out that they don't get to keep the tips. Because what happens is they would be seen for stealing if they had money in their pockets, so we're going to put it in there and the employers get it. So you say thank you very much, and you've got to leave people better off. And it's like having a glass of water. So supposing this was just a glass that was open, if you leave it at the side of your bed, after 2 or 3 days it goes stale. But if you drop it into a river, it'll stay fresh forever. So you circulate that gratitude, that love, that benevolence, and you find it all comes full circle back to you. Like you were saying about the tithing, giving out to other people, it comes back. I give out to other people at the same time.
I was going to take away from what you said is the next time we're having a conversation where we're thinking about trying to do something brave or be bold with if you have a problem, or you're going to send an email, or I don't know, to be bold yourself and be Superman and not Bruce Wayne. That's one better analogy, but you know what I mean?
Yep, the different superheroes get exactly where it is. Be the superhero version of yourself. Start wearing it and you realize how normal it is to be that person, because you dumb yourself down to fit in. But the difference is now we're in a world where influence matters, personal branding matters. We're in a situation where all of us are cowering when there's a door slammed because one person who understood that process put himself as the most powerful person in the world, and we're going, well, why should we back down? Every single one of us should be our optimum self because the world needs you to be that. So my Thought Leaders Network, which you're all invited to join, I'm creating Jedi. I'm creating people who go off to do their thing to make the world a better place. Don't have to come back to me. Pass it forward. Help other people to do it whilst having the best life you can possibly have. But don't back down. Unless it's time to back down. You always need to recharge your batteries as well.
Yeah.
I was out to say something and see you off. Go on.
No, I'm just so fascinated by your the Jedi tribe that you believe.
That makes sense.
A lot.
Like if someone's in it, you see what I do for you.
Yeah, 100%. And we met at a network event. Then we had a Zoom call. We discussed a lot of cool things, and yeah, I'm sure we're gonna do some more things moving forward because And that's what it's all about. When it comes to these events, you network with like-minded people, and you realize that, okay, maybe life wants to take you down this path. And then you just find yourself going down different paths, even if you feel like lost at some point, or you're not sure which way you want to go. It's always good to...
Well, here's the thing. I think that your life has many chapters to it.
Yeah.
So jump and grow wings. If it's a waste of time, don't do it longer than you need to. Move on to something else. They usually thread between, but often you can come back to what you did earlier. That wasn't the right time, and now you can do it. So I created a number of products that were the best sellers, but I was too far ahead of the game. There just wasn't a market for it. But now with digital distribution, I'm going back to those products, and I'm going to put them onto the market. They're billion-dollar products. I'm really excited because I got to a point where I was the only person doing it. Everyone who saw it, I traveled around the world with Visa and MasterCard and various other companies doing this thing, but it couldn't go any further because I created something that nobody else was doing. Now people are doing it, but they're not doing it the way I do it. I'll share with it what it is at some point. It's really exciting because I now can reach people and fix it. So the same as, when I dropped my daughter off at school in Sharjah, I've sat there in traffic for about 45 minutes. I thought, how can I fix this? I'm wasting time. I thought I'll do a car podcast. So what I do is I get that camera, the Osmo, and I turn upside down and I hang it on the windshield on the other side of the car, on the passenger seat. And I get my phone and I boot it up and I talk to my AI, which comes through the car stereo. And I created a podcast called Max and Me. So I talk to Max talks back, and what I do with my thought leaders network is I'll pose a question first thing in the morning, like, are you able to overcome challenges because you're worried about finances or something? And then I'll answer it with Max about the number of people that suffer from this, and also we'll brainstorm solutions for about 20 minutes, and then I'll edit it and I'll drop it into my group. So there's all the time different ways you can reach people and have an impact. So yeah, I'm always looking for new exciting ways of doing it. Thank
That's
you.
beautiful. So Dave, you've always been in front of the game, right? And you said you were doing stuff before the world bought onto YouTube. Today when you see a lot of other creators out there, they're creating their personal brand. What are the mistakes you see that they are probably not seeing?
The biggest challenge I see with content creators, I'll just share this as a big problem. First of all, social media is not going to be here forever. It's peaking, I would say, now. And I think the fact that we've got authoritarians running them all is for a good reason. Because what happens is every single person now who's a big hitter or an oligarch or a billionaire realizes you've got to have your own platform, because then you can amplify your vision, your voice, your influence on other people. And so if you look at it, Trump with Truth Social, Zuckerberg with Facebook, X. When Musk took over X or Twitter, everyone went, ha, he lost $44 billion or $1 million, whatever it was, $44 million. You must be an idiot spending all that money when you could have got it much cheaper. But then you realize that he can put his propaganda into any country, and no country is big enough to tell him to shut up. That's the power of the platform. So therefore, social media is tainted, and it won't last forever as the number one way of reaching people, no more than, MySpace did before Facebook. It will all alter. So what do you have to do? You have to create your own platform and your own community, or tap into another community where people are close and connected. But that's the way that media drives it. So it's called a K-shaped economy. What you've got is a shape of a K, where the rich are at the top and the poor are at the bottom, and the middle class gets squeezed out. So if you want to see a healthy country, they have a big middle class. UAE has a really strong middle class. That's how you tell things are working. Why? Because middle class want to support what they do, and they're also smart. So they'll tell people what works and what doesn't work. If you get rid of them, they drop down or they go up. And then as an authoritarian, you can tell people exactly what you want to happen. So whenever you see a country losing its middle class because the taxes are too expensive or the rich people are getting crazy rich, then you know that one thing happens: empires collapse. Normally every 150 years they collapse. There's a number of 6 things that happen to make them collapse. and America's heading towards that right now. It happens to everybody. It happens to Britain, happens to France, happens to the Persian Empire. There's a certain number of things. What's really strange is if you look at the Roman Empire, two things. First of all, that whenever you look at history, the only people that tell us the history are the ones that won. They never tell you, you never hear it. So the rich people who won are usually also the ones that are able to tell you the story because they can write. So that's what you get. But also when the Roman Empire died, everybody was healthier. They did better without having the rulers they had than they did when they had the empire. And how can we tell? Because when you look at the fossils and the bones of the people from that era after the Roman Empire collapsed, they were taller, they had more going on, and they were just healthier corpses, which sounds like a strange way to look at them, but they were just living better lives when they weren't being taxed or bullied. Here's what I would suggest for everybody as a content creator. First of all, nobody gives a shit about you. Who you are, what you do, nobody cares. The only thing they care about is what's in it for them. So be an expert at what you do, but think about your audience and do something that they will get from watching you and learning from you. So if you've got your own unique style, whether it's singing or doing sports or talking about spiritualism or talking about businesses or putting your personality into it, use them as gimmicks to get people to warm to you, and then find out and work out who your target audience is and deliver stuff that they would want to have. So you don't necessarily have to have massive numbers. You just need the right numbers that pay for your life. So on LinkedIn, I've got 64,000. On other platforms, I've got buttons. And I don't care how many people watch my videos, because I want the people who will hire me to look at it and say, he knows what I'm talking about. Most people won't. That's fine. They're not meant to. They're not my target audience. If they get something from it, good for them. But they'll never pay for my family's lifestyle or the future I want to have. But I always leave them better off, so they get something from it. So lean into who you are, but work out, if you can, your signature message. Because once you've got your signature message, then that's what you put everywhere. So mine is jump and grow wings on the way down. From the stories I told you today, from what Max is, and from leaving the UK to come to Dubai and to going on a radio station, at every stage I jump, make a calculated risk, and grow wings on the way down. So I can now talk about that for 3 hours, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, any soundbite, and because it resonates with those who go, yeah, I like the idea of jumping, growing wings on the way down, I can tell any story to anybody and they know who I am and what I do. LinkedIn name is davecrane Dubai.